Hey everyone, and welcome to Metalhead, Mexico. My name is Keiko, and today I'm going to start off by talking about the obvious. Why am I in Mexico? I'm not from here. I have no heritage here. So how did I end up in the outside of the U.S. and in Mexico? Well, it started with a trip, basically, with my husband and me. It wasn't the trip we had in mind, but it was something that was long overdue to travel abroad, which we hadn't done in a while, and something that we like to do. And to give a little background on that, my husband was raised abroad, so I know a lot of people just have never left the country or even their own town, but for him, he was raised, as an army brat outside of the country, lived between the U.S. and Germany throughout his childhood, and spent most of his time actually in Germany, and then in the States where we met in Washington State. Actually, stayed there a while, and through that journey, we getting to know each other and being, in a relationship, being married and all that, it came to be, we came to the same realization that we both didn't want to be in the States anymore, and really hadn't wanted to for like really ever. Neither of us really wanted to be there. So there may be some other things I'll go into as to the more detailed nuances as to why, but just not a cultural fit. We never belonged in our own respective worlds that we grew up in. It just wasn't a fit for us. It wasn't a fit for me growing up as a kid. It wasn't a fit for him. And so that's how we ended up arriving at the choice to make the leap ultimately. But that all came over time, right? So none of these things were taken lightly or just a sudden decision. So as far as like why I left the United States, I kind of covered that a bit, but we just we never felt like we belonged there. We just, just all the stuff, all the typical cultural things, of course there was okay stuff too, but more often than not, we just got sick of being pandered to, the whole debt culture thing, all the exhaustive late stage capitalism signs that just kind of push people to, the myth of working harder, and even sometimes working smarter, should yield the results that you want. And if you don't, there must be something you're doing wrong, or you're just lazy, right? And just everyone we know is working, most of our circle is working class. We come from that. And so it just became like, we knew it wasn't us, so we just kind of tended to sort of unplug and tune out as much as possible. But you can't ignore it. You can't live an insular life, especially as city people. We see it all the time, just and our friends, our family, everyone just, struggling, and sometimes even with really good jobs, still struggling, and some of that's just, it's part of the way the US system is set up to not encourage saving, not encourage smart investing, not encourage, trade schools and things like that. It's like, well, they make jokes out of that. Like, if you go to a trade school, it's not a real school, and so it's just so much of it. That's a bit off topic from Mexico, but just it all feeds into just the falsehoods that if you only do it this way, you will be promised something more. And but unfortunately, it's like it doesn't work that way in reality. A bunch of people have a bunch of useless four-year degrees now, across several generations, and it just all of that stuff has accumulated in the decision for us, where we thought, if we're going to do this, we need to do it now. We're not old, but we're not young either, and it was just time. It was more than time, and we actually tried relocating where my husband was raised, spent most of his formative years in Germany. We both have a shared German heritage, so that thought was our first and foremost part of our plan. But then we found out through all the red tape that despite him being born there and having a German mother, the legal the legal path toward it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough on its own. Just you'd think they always say, "Oh, check lineage, check heritage." It's like, well, yeah, but if a German mother and being born there isn't good enough, then But they kept changing the laws and all that kind of stuff over the years, and I checked it more recently, and it's still like, there's possibly a path, but you have to have a pretty high level of fluency, pretty high level of income too. So it's the cost of living there isn't so bad, but they really want you to be like, I thought, well, kind of blows part of the reason why we would choose to leave is for like, partly to reduce our expenses. I knew you were going to do that. There's my husband. There's David. Yeah, I was like, oh, he's appearing in the clouds. He's really proud of himself too. So, yeah, he's right here. Or, well, actually, I don't know now. He was. There he is. He disappeared behind the, we have hi, Tole.
Wasn't sure if you were able to see me in the reflection.
Oh, yeah, you appeared in the clouds. So now that you've video bombed you want to just come say hi? No, that's okay. He says. But
work my way into. I'll be the guy every once in a while you see a hand,
right. Yep.
a face, quickly here or there.
Yeah.
And then one day I'll cave.
And okay, sounds good. Right. Right, Atole. Yes, Atole is not our cat, but we've sort of adopted him while we've been renting at this place. He's the landlord's cat, and he's pretty sweet. He's got some kind of a kidney problem though, so he's not really allowed inside the house. So we try our best to honor that. And anyway, though, he's very sweet. He's 12 years old. His name's Atole, and he's a cute little black cat. So anyway, let's see. I wanted to check something here. So yeah, why Mexico? I kind of covered that. Germany wasn't going to work out, quite frankly. But it wasn't quite so, we didn't come to that quickly. We tried pushing for Germany from 2001, actually, yeah, 2001 to about 2007. And then we finally we figured out we found a consulate that could take in our questions and review my husband's documents, and they ultimately answered that information wasn't enough and he wouldn't be able to qualify for dual citizenship. And so I thought, well, okay. So then that was that. So we thought, and we just kind of let it go and decided that, maybe we'll just try and make this work, right? We'll stay in the Pacific Northwest, and we will just kind of, just figure out what's another way. We evidently, this isn't meant to be, so we'll just settle down, I guess, as much as we can. Home ownership was never really in the books for us, partly because income, it's like there's only so much we were willing to just, sell our souls. We had no kids, so weren't really that interested in ownership. And the type of ownership that we would have qualified for would have required us living way outside of a city environment, which is where we're most comfortable. We're city people. I wouldn't mind a small town. We agreed that we wouldn't mind that, but again, it was even so, the prices were not anything like what we were willing to get into, and just the way the whole mortgage system works, it's just like, again, it felt like, it's like, oh, they say, oh, the interest rates are fine, but you have to put, a bit down, but then you're paying for what? What's the average? I mean, you guys tell me in the comments, right? See if it's 30 years is the usual, right? And if you the more you put down, of course, then the better your mortgage amount is, your monthly mortgage amount is. But when it came down to it, they still, like one of the first things they'll do, I've heard too many homeowners say this, is within the first 5 years, they come and try to get you to refinance. And they go, oh, well, we can get you a lower rate and everything. But what that does is it resets the whole clock with your interest rates. So it's like, it's like they don't tell you, they act like your friend, but they're not. You're not even credit unions. They all do it, So some may give you a better rate than others, but they're all in the business of making money. So they sidle up to you and pretend to be your friend, and they don't really have your best interests in mind. So it's kind of like that with home ownership, with the education system, loans, student loans, the whole thing. It's just all, to me, it's just the way it's set up is just completely like a shell game and a pawn shop. That's basically, they are glorified shell games and pawn shops. So you could see kind of where this is going as far as like, if this is my viewpoint, how the heck do I expect to thrive in an environment like the US? And that's the truth, is that we weren't thriving. And so that's part of one of the reasons why there was, now my husband has brought me a treat. So I am going to look at this treat and probably not going to, probably now he's making obscene gestures. And this is going to be on video. So it's on the record. So.
Tiene una cerveza.
No tengo una cerveza ahora.
Tiene. Oh. Quiere. Quiere una cerveza.
You want everybody knowing that you talk like that?
Sí.
He's trying his best. He's he's retired, so he's really playing it up right now. He does not talk like that, but he's going into like, it's like a combination of Tuesdays with Maury and like the grandpa from The Simpsons. This is very disturbing, isn't it? So, cerveza, sí, por favor. Gracias, mi amor. And he's not even he's not Mexican, by the way. He's German and Portuguese, so he's just full of shit. Anyway, so anyway, with that in mind, now see, we are here to entertain. Yeah, so it was a process, right? So for people who are like, who, if you clicked on this, what made you click on it? Why Mexico? Are you interested in Mexico? And if so, why are you interested in Mexico? For us, it was kind of just because of, we felt restless, and it just wasn't going away. And, the Germany thing falling through didn't really help it go away. We tried looking around at condos, we were improving our credit score and all that kind of stuff. And, I guess that was all good to do. So we got a car and, got jobs and commuted like crazy, like other, I guess, normal people are supposed to do. And, but then we started thinking, when we looked at condos, and just none of it was appealing to us. So at one point we got into the idea of like, well, we're going to get a boat, and we're just all over the place. And so finally, we went on a trip.
Your moleto, please.
Gracias.
Must forgive the help. Stupid.
We're
Guess you gotta edit that part out.
Yeah, so I have to edit this shit. Do you hear this shit? Anyway, he brought me a Modelo, so it's all good. Modelo negra. O sea, un tipo de cerveza oscuro. And so yeah, we are learning our Spanish. We've been doing Duolingo. I know that's really like kind of a lazy approach, but hey, it is better than nothing, and we understand more than we can speak. But it is on that topic of acclimation and stuff. We intentionally, once we knew we wanted to not be in the U.S. anymore, and that Mexico was going to happen. How Mexico happened was a trip, and it was just supposed to be a trip. And we thought, one of the things we were going to do after, because I had a pretty good job at that point, this is like 2017, 2018, after probably 6 years of absolute, like, I don't want to say destitute, but like 2 making too much money to qualify for any kind of like governmental assistance, but too little money to be able to like afford to move, be able to really do anything. And so from the recession from like 2009, round two of the recession, until 2016, our two-person household in the West Coast living, coastal living, as you might know, for those of you who live on the coast, um, know that it's considerably more expensive than in the Midwest. Now, since that time, there's been definitely inflation has changed that a lot, and everywhere is expensive, right? But it was a little bit more relative, where like a rental for 600 or 700 in Minneapolis, for example, where I'm from, um, there wasn't anything like that in Seattle. Like it would be 1,000. So anyway, all that to say, there was a point. So if you consider this a household of two in one of the most expensive cities in the country, we were earning less than $40,000 together at one point, and it was just like we're like it was just crazy. That sounds maybe like decent money in some environments, but consider how much like I said, when a place is like $100 per square foot, it's you know do the math. So we shared a tiny, like less than 500 square foot apartment for about 12 years. Got married there, just all that kind of stuff. And anyway, over the years, we thought like we tried our best to stay. We tried our best. We had friends. We had a good circle of friends. We had David's extended family, at least the ones we wanted to associate with, and that's a whole nother story, family. But it just we were thinking, okay, let's at least travel. We're finally due. We went through the recession, making just eking by, and we decided in 2018. I finally got 2016. I got a decent job, and then a little bit after that, my husband did too. So things were starting to look up. So I got what was at the time the best paying job that I'd ever had, in construction, doing administrative work. And that just continued to improve. It just basically, frankly, I got promoted by showing up, and just being there and doing the job every day. And it was just kind of incredible how it happened. But I ended up just getting promoted, and like in the span of 10 years, I got like in 2 different projects, I got promoted 3 times. And that's kind of thing has never happened with me. And it was kind of a combination of luck, referrals, and people who who are on the job that that liked the work I did, that liked that I was reliable and that it was professional and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't come without its frustrations. But the pay was just insane. I mean, it's still, for Seattle, it was not great money, but it was more money than we had ever seen. And so that allowed us the breather that we needed to recover finally from the recession and finally be able to travel. And so when we did, we went to Mexico. And the plan after we got back was going to be, later that year that summer was to get a little money saved up again after, travel expenses. And we were going to buy a particular type of motorcycle. We'll go into that, that we've been eyeing. It's a certain type of sidecar motorcycle. It's a Russian motorcycle called a Ural, and it is modeled after the BMW type of sidecar motorcycles. And the Russians confiscated it during World War II, reverse engineered it basically, so they say, and then made it their own brand, and mass marketed it to the working masses who often couldn't afford a car. And it was affordable by comparison. It was rugged, and it had 2-wheel drive. And so we liked that. It was a little unusual, and it was going to be a lot of money, but it would be less than 2 motorcycles. And so we were ready to buy that. But then Mexico happened. So we went on this trip, and we went to part of the Yucatan Peninsula to a city called Merida. And neither of us had ever heard of it before, but I did a bunch of research, and it sounded intriguing to me because they called it the one of the longest, most consistently populated. I'm trying to remember what it is. It's the largest indigenous population in a consistently inhabiting a city. So I thought, wow, it's gonna be like major, mostly indigenous people living there, and so because just as a city, what happens is others move in, and it changes evidently. So, but not here, in the city of Merida. And so we went, and we got to climb pyramids and just all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a big kind of National Geographic nerd, and I was one of those kids that grew up watching documentaries and and fun stuff, other fun stuff like superhero stuff like Wonder Woman and Incredible Hulk. And I'm a Gen Xer, so all this stuff was on network TV. And anyway, we had a lot of encyclopedias and National Geographics around, and so National Geographic got me super excited about Egyptian mythology and Maya culture and things like that. And I couldn't read a lot of it at the time, but I just loved looking at the pictures and just the mystique about it all, and the artwork and the gods and just all that. And I thought, I'm one of those people that's not I was raised by pretty free-thinking adults, their parents, adults. I was raised by, they're pretty adult, but they're parents who are, they're strict when it came to certain things, but as far as kind of where our minds went with stuff and where we wanted to take our creativities and all that kind of stuff, they were sort of hands-off. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. I'll get into that some other time with Generation X. We were very independent kids. We had chores to do, though. So I don't know if you're whether you're in Gen X or not. Were you brought up in a household that had to do chores? That's a question. So if you have, comment below. Are you a Gen Xer? Firstly, and whether you are or you're not, are you or were you responsible for chores around the house growing up? So that's a big question, because I'll get into generational stuff in another video, and that's one of the things that might help fuel discussion and conversation is talking about just generational differences to kind of help people understand sort of some of the way everybody is wired, how people grow up. It's not always a generational thing, but Gen Xers often had two working parents, was pretty common, anyway, I mention all that because I spent a lot of time during summers I would we had chores to do, play outside, but then I want to come in, and we had some limitations to TV, and so we had bookshelves full of books, and I wasn't really interested in reading Hemingway at the time or anything like that. So but the encyclopedias were great, and National Geographic and Ebony magazine and all that kind of stuff was around. And so I saw the pyramids, and I've always been fascinated by that. So that was one reason why when we came to Mexico, I thought, we're gonna, I was trying actually for Belize, and there's a story behind that, which I'll share another time. But just that as the first trip was just we expected to like it. We knew we'd have a good time. But what happened was we loved it. And then we had to discuss it, we had to think about well, what just happened? I mean, yeah, we had a good time, but we knew something else happened on that trip. And luckily we found out in pretty short order that we were both thinking the same thing. But it's the kind of same thing, the kind of thing that when it crosses your mind, we could move to another country, that's not a small epiphany. And you're married to somebody, and just for a split second, I thought, okay, chances are good because, we've already been together a long time, and I knew David grew up abroad, living abroad. So it wasn't like a far-fetched notion that he'd want to try it. But the other side of it is like, can we do it? You know, what goes into this? You know, just up and leaving and living in another culture. Europe was kind of a, you know, heavy enough kind of a lift, but at least it was European culture. We both come very much from European culture. Neither of us have any Hispanic or Latino culture, so in our heritage. So, although to be honest, I have Cherokee. I'm 1/8 Cherokee, but I don't. It's not anything that's been like taught or ingrained into my upbringing, so I can't really claim that. Anyway, we looked into it, and people, if you have any interest in the idea of just, you know, finding out at least, you know, if you've already had this kind of thing on your mind, if you thought, wow, I really wish I could do that. I wish I could, you know, a person must have to be really rich. No, you don't. You don't have to be rich. It is quite a commitment, though, in either income or savings. And you're going to have to save like a motherfucker to do it. But it can be done. And it can be done before you retire, because the retirement, usually people do this during retirement, and they, you know, which assumes you have a nest egg and you've had a career and 401k and all that kind of stuff. And you just got, you know, several $100,000, you know, saved up. That's not us, you know. So that, you know, so we had to think like, okay, there's options. So people, if you feel like you're trapped, if you are one of those people who, if you have wanted to live abroad and Mexico has any appeal to you, but you're just not really sure where to start, I am going to start putting some reference material, some links below, and start keeping that in the videos where I cover Mexico. I probably will just do it for all of them, but to keep it topical, I'll start with probably just doing the ones that are about Mexico. But yeah, there's resources out there about where to start, how to start, just like what you want to do. And so in the next video, what I'm going to cover about Mexico is going to be, what did we do? How did we decide where to, how did we narrow it down? I mean, it's a big country. It's more than just beaches and resorts, and a lot more than like high desert and donkeys and people wearing sombreros. So there's more going on here than that. It's 32 states. You know, it's just like saying that, you know all of Mexico just from your experiences on vacation is kind of like saying you know all of the US because you went to New York or, you know, Florida. It's there's, you know, that's too broad of a brush to paint as far as that goes. So if you have any interest in this, please join me on the next video. Look forward to seeing you there, and I'll be happy to share more information about how we did it and how we started narrowing it down. And that's how we did it. We made a several years plan and we made it happen. We luckily had each other to do it. Not everybody has that, so I feel extremely fortunate and blessed that we did have each other to help push each other along, because it was a you know, something of a marathon. But we had to be patient and just kind of keep at it. So that's it for this video, and thanks for joining me, and hoping to see you in the next one. Next video we're gonna cover, it's gonna be more about midlife and being a Gen Xer. It'll still intersect somewhat with Mexico, but I'm gonna focus a bit on that. Anyway, thanks for joining me here, and see you on the next video.